Title: Do You Know Who I Am? How One Woman's Seat Sparked a Corporate Reckoning. The tension in the first-class cabin was palpable. Camille Hartley stood motionless in the narrow aisle, her steel-gray Armani suit a sharp contrast to the passengers frozen in a mix of confusion and curiosity. Behind her, flight attendant Jenna Morales clutched the scanner tightly, knuckles white against the smooth plastic. Before them sat a man sprawled across seats 1A and 1B's polo shirt crisp, his loafers untied, his face betraying only mild annoyance. "I'm afraid there's been a mix-up," Jenna said, her voice rising in a futile attempt to smooth over the moment. "Due to an equipment change, we've had to reassign some seats. You've been moved." Camille's dark eyes remained locked on Jenna's. "Interesting," she replied coolly. "Because my seat was confirmed yesterday, and I boarded before that man took it. So I'm curious how he's in my seat, and I'm being asked to leave." She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Her tone carried more weight than any outburst ever could. 25 years of boardroom battles had trained her to recognize the exact moment something stopped being procedural and became personal. This was that moment. Jenna glanced toward the man, then back to Camille. "I understand your frustration, ma'am, but I need you to take the seat listed on your boarding pass. We're preparing for pushback." Camille lowered her voice further, barely a whisper, but it stopped Jenna cold. "Do you know who I am?" It wasn't arrogance. It was a genuine question about the depth of the miscalculation unfolding. Jenna's smile faltered. "Ma'am, it doesn't." Camille raised one hand, signaling her to stop. "I'm not asking for special treatment. I'm asking if you know exactly whose confirmed first-class seat you decided to revoke this morning." Nobody on Flight 713 to New York realized it yet, but Camille Hartley wasn't just any passenger. She wasn't just a well-dressed woman used to traveling in comfort. She was the CEO of Solara Capital, a powerhouse firm preparing to finalize a $4.3 billion acquisition of the very airline she was currently being asked to downgrade on. And in the next 30 minutes, this flight wouldn't just be delayed, it would be remembered as the moment an airline's entire fate was grounded by one unforgivable slight. Just 6 hours earlier, Camille had awoken in her Chicago penthouse before sunrise. At 56, her 5 a.m. routine was sacred. The sky beyond her glass walls was still dark, the city lit like a circuit board of gold. Her mornings were a ritual. 30 minutes on her Peloton, a hot shower, and avocado toast prepared by her longtime housekeeper, Mariella. "You've got that vote today, right?" Mariella asked, placing Camille's espresso beside a neatly stacked portfolio. Camille nodded. "Final approval on the Luma Air acquisition." Mariella raised an eyebrow. "That's the one with the legacy issues, yeah?" Camille gave a small smile. "That's a diplomatic way to put it. Luma Air was once a shining star in domestic aviation. Now, it was flailing understaffed, overextended, and teetering on bankruptcy. Solara had made its move at the perfect moment. If the vote passed today, Camille's firm would take control by month's end. By 6:30 a.m., her driver, Malik, was waiting curbside in a black Escalade. Camille stepped in, portfolio in hand, dressed like a woman who'd never sat anywhere but first class. Malik knew better than to interrupt her thoughts. The ride to O'Hare was quiet. At Luma's operations center on the other side of the city, however, the day was already unraveling. Arthur Bell, the night shift supervisor, had been with Luma for over 3 decades. He started out loading baggage on frigid tarmacs in 1991. Back then, Luma was family. Now, it was a sinking ship, and Arthur knew exactly who he blamed. Solara Capital, and specifically Camille Hartley. He'd read her comments in the trade press how she'd called Luma bloated and a relic of an inefficient era. He had watched as rumor after rumor swirled about layoffs and strategic reorganization. So when a notification came through about a last-minute equipment change switching their 787 for a smaller A320 with fewer first-class seats, Arthur saw an opportunity. One passenger had to be downgraded. And though the system randomly selected Camille Hartley, Arthur didn't overrule it. He let it stand. Let the queen of corporate cutbacks see how the rest of us fly, he muttered. It was a petty decision, but Arthur Bell would soon learn that petty choices can cost billions. At the airport, Camille breezed through check-in, greeted by name by the platinum desk agent. He frowned at his screen. MS. Hartley, I'm seeing you in seat 14D. That can't be right. It's not. Looks like you were downgraded during the overnight equipment change. I'll request an upgrade at the gate. Camille's jaw tightened, but she said nothing. Not yet. She passed through security, settled in the executive lounge, and made a call to her general counsel, Reuben Marks. I've been bumped to economy. Again. Third time this year, he noted. Coincidence? I don't believe in them, she replied, sipping her espresso. By the time she arrived at the gate, it seemed a fix was in. The agent there had a new boarding pass for her. Seat 1A. First row window. Order restored. But when Camille boarded, she found that seat already occupied. The man lounging there barely looked up. This is my seat. Camille didn't argue. She called over the flight attendant. A few moments of tapping on a tablet, a flurry of whispers, and Jenna Morales returned with an apology. MS. Hartley, it seems there's been a duplicate assignment. This gentleman was already seated. And we're out of first-class seats. I'll need you to return to 14D. That's when Camille asked the question. Do you know who I am? Jenna hesitated. Then, the full gravity of the situation began to sink in. Camille calmly stated her full title and affiliation, then added, in 2 hours, I will sit across from your board of directors. Every executive who reports to you today will answer to me tomorrow. The cabin went silent. Jenna excused herself and returned moments later, pale-faced. MS. Hartley, I'm deeply sorry. Our lead flight attendant and the captain would like to speak with you. Camille nodded, retrieved her bag, and walked the walk of every powerful person wronged. Through the curtain, past first class, all the way to row 14. She opened her laptop and began to write. Not an angry letter, not a complaint, a memo to the Solara board, proposing significant amendments to the acquisition agreement, changes that would alter the course of the merger entirely. The flight lifted into the sky. Around her, passengers whispered. A teenage boy across the aisle leaned toward her. Excuse me, he said. Are you really the CEO? Camille smiled. Yes. He grinned. That was badass. Camille laughed. Thank you. The boy's father offered a hand. Daniel Lynn, this is my son, Evan. Camille Hartley, she replied, shaking his hand. Daniel cleared his throat. That was wrong, what they did to you. It was illuminating, Camille said. That's why I'm rewriting the merger terms. When the plane landed, a uniformed executive from Luma was waiting at the gate. Camille was ushered into a black car, chauffeured to the company's midtown headquarters, and led into a glass-walled boardroom with 13 nervous directors seated around the table. She didn't sit immediately. I'm presenting revised terms, she said. The lead director, Warren Niles, blanched. Revised? Camille laid out her proposal. A mandatory leadership audit, immediate cultural restructuring, and a 90-day clause to replace any executive whose behavior failed Solara's new ethical standards. And if we refuse? Another board member asked. You won't, because without this acquisition, your company folds in 5 months. Silence. Then Warren spoke. Accepted. By evening, the press release was live. Solara Capital had acquired Luma Air. And Camille Hartley had grounded an entire airline figuratively, not with rage, but with strategy. 3 months later, Camille stood at a podium in Luma's headquarters. Beside her stood newly promoted executives, including several women and people of color previously passed over. In the audience sat Daniel, and Evan Lynn invited as guests of honor. Camille smiled at them as she began. 3 months ago, I was told to take my assigned seat. Today, I stand in a very different one, not because I demanded respect, but because I refused to accept anything less. The room rose in applause. And just like that, a new flight had begun. One fueled not by jet fuel, but by justice and purpose.